I can probably count on one hand how many men in my life that I can have a conversation like this. That's problematic. I think in my life maybe, but in general, right? Like that shouldn't be a thing. Do you think about this a lot? Like I don't know what, how many male friends you have where you can have like a completely vulnerable chat with, but it's something I think about a lot. I have a lot of lovely, fantastic male friends, but they're not necessarily someone I can get together at an apartment or a coffee shop and really tell them what I'm struggling with.
I would say the last 10 years or so that we really started hearing the masculinity message around mental health. I've obviously been a big part of that conversation, given my past role at Movember and what we were trying to do there within men's health. What can we do about it? I think we can do this. We can continue having conversations. And I think for those of us that are comfortable talking about not necessarily mental health, but just being more vulnerable. And I'm sure you know this, the effect that vulnerability has on people that are maybe not yet as comfortable being vulnerable. The effect that it has is so palpable. It kind of blows me away every time that when you are vulnerable and when you show that vulnerability and you share, it's almost 100% of the time someone opens up to you in a way that you've never heard them speak before. Or you hear, I've heard a lot. I've never told anyone this before, but that to me is like the biggest compliment someone can give. And if men that were vulnerable viewed that compliment in that same regard, like that is a huge gift, I think, that you can give someone. Then maybe we'd start having conversations in a different way. And at the end of the day, it goes down to parenting. Like that is the crux of it for men's health and men's mental health is our dads need to start being very different than they are. I grew up in a family that one of the pieces of advice I got from my dad's a great guy and he was a great father, but he's a man's man. And he is a person that like believes that at times you just need to punch someone. Which I don't really believe anymore. But I grew up being told, like, if you upset me once and I ask you to stop and you upset me a second time and I ask you to stop, what I was told was the third time I punch you directly in the face. That was my childhood. And like I changed significantly from that time, but it took a lot of like self-reflection, and around like 22 years old, my life changed significantly. And for whatever reason, and that's just parenting, maybe not fathering in general, but raising a person who is born as a male needs to be looked at differently, and they need to have a place to share, and they need to be encouraged to, and we need to teach young men that being a man is not about not being vulnerable, not sharing, and being tough and being manly, if you want to look at it that way, is being vulnerable. And guys, that's what being tough is, and hopefully we can change that.
Exactly. You can be strong and vulnerable at the same time. You and I, for example, like we're comfortable having these conversations. So if you're with a friend who is clearly struggling with something and like deep down they really want to open up, it's getting past that first barricade that they have to jump over, because a lot of times like you as the person interested and wanting to be caring towards the person will ask that sensitive question, and then that male in return will kind of get bashful about it and kind of like shrug you off, like, oh, don't tell me about that. And that could cause you to back away because you're like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed either. But I think we are comfortable pushing through that so they can jump over the barricade, if that makes sense.
And I guess my thought is just that the easiest way to do that is to just find a way, especially if you're going there with intent, meaning you're like, you think someone is struggling or whatever, is finding a way. Because we always talk with Be There, we talk about like listening and not necessarily comparing to your story. And so you tell me you're struggling with something, I don't come back and be like, oh, well, one day I struggled with that too, and this is what worked for me right away. But I would say the opposite is true, is to start a conversation. If you can start a conversation by sharing what you're going through, I think whether or not that person is going to be comfortable, I think you're creating the opportunity for them to be more comfortable. But we can't change everyone, and we can't change things in a day. And there's been many people I've tried to have conversations with for my sake or for theirs that haven't been open to it. But I've also seen people that are like go from being this like masculine, reserved, not vulnerable person to like the most incredible, open, like experimental people, and that's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah.